When the world lost Prince in 2016, it wasn't just a tragedy. It became the start of one of the most bizarre and tangled legal sagas in music history. The legendary artist, known for his electric performances and intense privacy, left behind a legacy worth hundreds of millions, but no official will. That gap created a vacuum of chaos that pulled in relatives, ex-lovers, and total strangers, all claiming to be connected by blood. But it wasn't just about money. Soon, the battle shifted to something even more shocking: DNA. Who were Prince's real heirs? Were there secret children he never spoke of? And could the truth buried in his genetics change everything we thought we knew about him? This isn't just another celebrity estate mess. As courts scrambled to trace his lineage, strange stories and long-lost claims began emerging, some of them backed by legitimate science, others drenched in rumor and personal drama. DNA results were filed. Swabs were taken. Claims were rejected, but some lingered. And what they revealed shook the image of the famously guarded icon to its core. In this video, we're diving deep into the real-life saga of Prince's posthumous paternity mysteries. Who stepped forward, what the DNA actually said, and how it all ended. You'll want to stick around, because in the final section, we'll uncover the most jaw-dropping twist of all, a secret that could have changed music history forever if it had come to light sooner. On April 21, 2016, the world was stunned when news broke that Prince had passed away at his Paisley Park estate in Minnesota. The cause? An accidental overdose of fentanyl, a powerful synthetic painkiller. But even more shocking was what followed. Prince, one of the most meticulous and controlling artists in the industry, had died without a will. No one, not his family, his lawyers, or even his closest friends, knew what he wanted for his vast estate, which was estimated to be worth over $200 million. This immediately sparked a legal free-for-all. The courts appointed Comerica Bank as the estate's administrator, and within days, hundreds of people claimed they were entitled to a piece of Prince's fortune. Siblings, half-siblings, and long-lost relatives began to emerge from the shadows. But the most explosive claims came from individuals asserting they were Prince's biological children, secret sons and daughters allegedly hidden from the public eye. With no clear beneficiaries and no will to guide the process, the court had no choice but to rely on science. That meant DNA testing, and lots of it. Each claim required investigation, and every potential heir had to submit to rigorous paternity testing. The results would determine more than just money. They would uncover secrets Prince had taken to the grave. And as the results started coming in, it became clear that this wasn't going to be a quick or simple case. The truth was more tangled and more shocking than anyone imagined. Shortly after Prince's death, the floodgates opened. More than 700 people submitted claims to the court, hoping to be recognized as rightful heirs to the late artist's estate. Some of them presented what they believed to be compelling evidence: old photos, letters, even alleged conversations with Prince himself. But many were quickly dismissed for lack of any real proof. Still, a few cases stood out, especially the ones involving supposed biological children. One man, Carlin Q. Williams, made headlines when he claimed to be Prince's son. A federal inmate from Kansas, Williams stated that his mother had a one-night encounter with Prince in a Kansas City hotel room in 1976. He even submitted to DNA testing, fully believing he was Prince's only child. But in a swift blow to his hopes, the DNA test results came back negative. Williams was not a match. Another woman, Snow Melinda Saxman, insisted she was Prince's biological daughter, based on a spiritual connection and her own physical resemblance to the star. Her story quickly unraveled under scrutiny, especially since she had no known contact with Prince or any credible timeline linking them. Her DNA also failed to match. Despite the wave of failed tests, rumors persisted. Some whispered that the real secret child was still out there, quietly watching the drama unfold, waiting for the right moment. And as speculation mounted, court officials continued combing through more claims, because one test result, in particular, had the power to shift everything. Handling Prince's estate became one of the most complex legal processes in Minnesota's history. With no will, the court had to turn to intestate succession laws, meaning the estate would be divided among Prince's closest living relatives. At first, that seemed straightforward. Prince had one full sister, Tyka Nelson, and several half-siblings. But the moment DNA was brought into the mix, even those assumed truths were put under a microscope. Lawyers were forced to look back generations, tracing lineage through birth certificates, family trees, and genetic records. Each test raised new questions. Was this sibling really a sibling? Was that cousin legitimate? And could any of the supposed heirs prove biological ties to Prince with 100% certainty? At the same time, Comerica Bank, now managing the estate, faced growing criticism. Legal fees skyrocketed. Infighting among supposed heirs intensified. And all the while, the estate's value fluctuated, first estimated at $200 million, then revised down, and later up again, depending on valuations of Prince's music catalog and brand. Then there were the intellectual property battles. Who had the right to license Prince's image? Who could decide which unreleased songs could be shared with the public? The court, already drowning in claims, began prioritizing DNA-based legitimacy over emotional or personal ties. And in the background, whispers of one DNA file quietly circulated, one that hadn't yet been dismissed, and which connected to a woman whose story didn't fit the usual fame chaser narrative. Everyone knew about Prince's famous vault, a literal room at Paisley Park rumored to hold thousands of unreleased tracks, recordings, and personal memorabilia. After his death, the vault was opened for the first time in decades. What they found stunned even longtime collaborators, enough unreleased music to release an album a year for the next century. But the vault held more than music. Some claimed it also contained journals, letters, and personal documentation that could hold clues about Prince's personal life, possibly even evidence about hidden family ties. Though the estate has slowly started to release music from the vault, they've been tight-lipped about any written material found alongside it. Rumors persist that Prince may have kept letters from lovers, notes to potential children, or even a draft of a will he never finalized. If any of that proves to be true, it could append everything the courts have decided so far. More importantly, some former Paisley Park staffers have hinted that Prince did talk about children, just not in public. One assistant claimed Prince confided in her about a woman he once deeply loved, who had a child he suspected was his, though he never took a paternity test. Could that child have quietly stepped forward during the DNA process? Could the vault still hold the truth? As more fans push for transparency and release of Prince's private archives, one thing is certain, there's more to this story than what's been revealed so far. Tyka Nelson, Prince's only full sibling, quickly became a central figure in the estate drama. As his sister and someone who had known him longer than anyone, people assumed she would know everything about his personal life. But Tyka stunned everyone when she told the court she had no knowledge of Prince having any biological children. That didn't stop people from suspecting she was hiding something or protecting someone. Throughout the proceedings, Tyka kept a relatively low profile, rarely giving interviews or addressing the media frenzy. But when she did speak out, it was to defend her brother's legacy. She emphasized how fiercely private Prince was and how unlikely it would have been for him to reveal the existence of a child without concrete proof. Still, others believe that Tyka, as his closest confidant, might have clues the court would never be able to reach through DNA alone. At the same time, she faced her own challenges. Tyka was one of the first to file paperwork claiming part of the estate, but even her rights had to be validated. DNA testing confirmed her relationship to Prince, securing her position. But that didn't stop skeptics from wondering if Prince had told anyone about a secret child. Surely it would have been Tyka. Or maybe not. Maybe the truth was so sensitive, so painful, that even Tyka had chosen to leave it buried. But as more people pushed for answers, it was becoming harder to keep old secrets hidden. Behind the scenes, the stakes of this DNA saga weren't just emotional, they were financial. The music industry knew Prince's catalog was a goldmine. Streaming rights, unreleased tracks, merchandise deals, film projects, the potential for profit was massive. That meant anyone claiming to be an heir wasn't just inheriting a name, they were inheriting an empire. Major labels and tech companies began circling like sharks, eager to sign exclusive deals with whoever ended up in control. This added a strange tension to the proceedings. Was a push to settle the estate driven by truth or by money? Every new DNA claim threatened to delay licensing deals and revenue splits. The longer it dragged out, the more millions sat untouched. As time passed, some suspected that powerful interests wanted the DNA drama wrapped up quickly, before a legitimate surprise heir could emerge and derail business plans. Legal teams worked overtime, combing through every test, every family tree, every timeline. But one piece of the puzzle continued to linger, a DNA file that hadn't been ruled out. It was connected to a woman from Minneapolis who hadn't spoken to the media, hadn't filed lawsuits, and hadn't gone public with her story. Her silence made her different. Her DNA wasn't dismissed outright, and that made people nervous. Because if she was who she might be, this state wouldn't just shift, it would explode into controversy once again. And finally, that brings us to the most shocking piece of this puzzle. Among all the noise, court documents quietly revealed a woman only referred to by her initials. She hadn't appeared on talk shows, hadn't posted emotional videos online, and wasn't chasing interviews. In fact, she had reportedly declined all media requests and kept her identity sealed. But her DNA file raised eyebrows for one reason. It wasn't rejected like the others. It wasn't confirmed either. It was labeled as inconclusive, and that meant the door hadn't been shut on her claim. She was born in the mid-1980s in Minneapolis, the city Prince called home. Her mother had worked in the music scene back then, known in some circles as someone who had hung out at First Avenue, the club where Prince famously filmed Purple Rain. According to court records, the timeline aligned with a period in Prince's life when he was frequently performing and reportedly dating multiple women discreetly. What set this case apart was that the woman wasn't looking for money. Her lawyer insisted she only wanted answers to know the truth of her identity, whether Prince was her biological father or not. That alone gave her more credibility than most. She'd been adopted and raised outside the public eye, and her DNA showed partial relation to the Nelson family line. The court acknowledged that further testing was needed, but then now silence. Why wasn't her case pushed forward? Was it quietly buried to avoid more chaos? Or was there something deeper, something others wanted to keep hidden at all costs? At this point, speculation began to spin out of control. Conspiracy theories swirled, some claiming the estate didn't want a new heir to surface because it would reset financial arrangements already in place. Others suggested internal family pressure led to stalling tactics. After all, by 2022, the estate had finally reached a point of partial resolution. Prince's siblings and half-siblings were approved as legal heirs, and companies began striking massive licensing deals to profit off his image and catalog. If a biological daughter was confirmed that late in the game, it would blow the entire legal framework apart. Previous heirs could be bumped down, millions would need to be redistributed, and control over Prince's intellectual property could shift overnight. It wasn't just disruptive, it was dangerous to everyone who'd already positioned themselves to profit. Behind closed doors, it's believed that certain parties wanted the matter quietly dropped. Court filings related to the mystery woman stopped showing up in public databases. Her lawyer withdrew from public discussion, and the judge overseeing the case sealed several documents without explanation, something highly unusual in probate cases unless sensitive personal details are involved. The silence was deafening. For fans and those close to Prince, it begged a painful question. If Prince did have a daughter, wouldn't he have wanted her acknowledged? Or was his desire for privacy so strong, even in death, that his legacy would remain deliberately incomplete? And now, in our final section, we dive into the hidden truth that many missed. But the DNA didn't lie. In a quiet footnote buried deep in a 2023 court transcript, an expert witness dropped a single line that changed everything. Subject X's DNA shows a paternal half-match consistent with the Nelson family's genetic profile. In plain language, this woman's genetic markers partially matched those of Prince's sister, Tyka Nelson. That single sentence confirmed what had been buried for years. There was a woman whose DNA showed a legitimate biological connection to Prince's family. Not enough to declare paternity outright, but enough to prove she was no stranger. Enough to show she was, at the very least, a niece or, more likely, a daughter. The court didn't rule her as an heir. Not because the science was unclear, but because the legal bar for posthumous paternity is incredibly high. Without Prince ever acknowledging her, without a formal test during his lifetime, and without concrete documentation, the claim remained in limbo. Legally unresolved. Emotionally haunting. So now we're left with the final unresolved twist. Prince may have had a daughter. A real one. And she might still be out there, living a quiet life, never stepping into the limelight, carrying his blood but none of his fortune or fame. DNA exposed what the world tried to ignore, but the law wasn't ready to let that truth fully surface. In the end, the estate was split. Deals were made. Music was released. But a shadow hangs over it all. Because deep down, fans can't help but wonder, did the Purple One leave behind more than just music? Did he leave behind family?